So this is the story of Dove. Unilever as a business is divided into two. There's food and then there's home and personal care. And they're about half and half in terms of the global revenue. If you just take home and personal care, which is this chart, Dove was nearly a third of that. It was a huge brand. Some research, global research in about 10 countries, asking women what they thought of the brand, and had that classic projective technique where you go, if they were a girl at a party, what would they be like? This is what we got back. If Dove were a person, it would be like a girl at a party who's very nice, but she'll only have one drink. Although she's nice, you'll be glad when she's gone, so the fun can begin. So, if you're going to reinvent the brand and zhuzh it up a bit, you've got to start being relevant, you've got to be interesting. And we weren't. There was no discourse at that time at all about purpose branding or anything like that. To be iconic, you needed to stand for something bigger than the product itself, and Apple stood for creativity and Nike stood for empowerment. If we're going to be iconic and be amazing, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to stand for. We wanted to be real. We had no idea how important that would become at this time. Beautifully uncomplicated. We looked at simple. That sounded a bit basic, all sorts of things. So we thought that expressed it very well. We wanted to be timeless. We did want to put cool, but we thought it might be a bit like dad dancing. So we'd be timeless. We couldn't bear the idea that people in some country would try and be really groovy and we'd have to look at it. So we thought timeless would probably prevent that. Eye level, we didn't want to patronise. We wanted to address the customer sort of, girl to girl, as it were. And we want to do what we say we're going to do. We're going to keep our promises. So those were our values. And we did a competitive review, and this is the snapshots of the ads that we looked at. This was what we saw from L'Oreal, from Nivea, from Olay, from Pantene, from Neutrogena, which is a huge mass market brand in the US, Shiseido, Japanese brand. First of all, the ads all felt and looked the same. They're all populated by very thin, very young girls, retouched to within an inch of their lives, looking more in need of a good lunch than whatever product they're supposed to be selling. And also, and this was the beginning of an insight, they all made the women in the room feel really shitty. We were looking at that going, they're trying to make me be something I'm not. There must be a better way to advertise this category than this, and we've just got to find it. So that was a really sort of pivotal moment that these ads made us feel crappy. So when you listen to Mark Ritson, he will say, the people from Unilever did research and they discovered that only 2% of women worldwide feel that they're beautiful. Now, we actually did do that research, but we did it later for a PR story. At this time, it was just the gut feel of 4 or 5 women in a room. We went instead for our insight to psychologists as opposed to the customer. And we went and said, we have this theory that looking at these ads and beauty images actually is having a bad effect on women. Are we right? And they were like, oh, and how? And there's lots of scientific evidence that women looking at images of unattainable beauty actually damages the women's self-esteem. So actually the act of grooming is in and of itself building self-esteem. So we sort of felt okay as a company that made beauty products that it would be possible for us to own this insight and provide something of relevance. It was going to be much more about the how we took that to market that was going to be different. The stock market performance over the long term of companies who had purpose at their heart compared with companies in the same category who are also very good but which didn't. And so those brands that actually had that sense of mission beyond what they sold actually did incredibly well from a business point of view over the long run. And that particular argument was incredibly convincing to some of the more commercially orientated executives at Unilever. So what were the stereotypes? This was our sort of enemy, really, the beauty stereotype, rather than the women's feelings or anything like that. And you look around you, it's not that different now. Only thin is beautiful, only young is beautiful, only blonde straight hair is beautiful, only tall is beautiful. I was really pleased on that. I always thought being tall was ugly. But only tall is beautiful, only physical features count, you've got to be perfect, and that pressure to be perfect all the time. that we believe that beauty comes in different shapes, sizes and ages, and that real beauty can be genuinely stunning. So we really got that down into a very clear statement of what we were all about and what we stood for. What we were trying to do, we were trying to make more women feel beautiful every day by widening the stereotypical view of it and inspiring women to take great care of themselves. So it's not about aspiration, it's about inspiration. But if we would explain all this to a woman, they'd be like, it's brilliant, go sisters, I'm in, what can I do, how can I help? If we explained it to blokes, they were a bit baffled. I'm sorry this is gendered, it just is. They were like, really, you don't think you're beautiful? But of course you're beautiful, you're a woman. And we're like, yeah, we spend most of the days worrying about the size of our arses. And they'd be going, your arses are fine. So it was the complete and utter bafflement. And the other thing that happened, which was also, I think, very, very funny, my direct client was a lovely German gentleman called Klaus, married to a very lovely German lady called Claudia. And his comment to us, the team, was, well, I'm sure that's a very good strategy for ugly women. But actually, I don't think most women are going to buy into this. So we avoided just punching him then and there at the women that had come up with this piece of mischief. But to his credit, he went home and he said to Claudia, who is lovely, he said, how do you feel about the way you look? 2 hours later, when she had stopped telling him about how she didn't like her thin hair and she had fat thighs and la la la, he's sitting there like going, oh my God, if my gorgeous Claudia feels this way, I was completely wrong about the ugly women in the team at work. And clearly this is an insight that is more universal. So to his credit, he came back and said, I'm completely wrong. Most of the senior executives at Unilever were men. The chairman was a man, most of the senior vice president category directors, all of whom would have to be convinced were men. They had to feel it. They almost had to have a Claudia moment of their own. So I suggested that we either did vox pops or interviews with their wives and daughters. She phoned them at home, got hold of the wives and said, you mustn't tell your husband, you mustn't split on us, this is a girl power thing. Do you have daughters, and could we speak to them for 10 minutes on the phone and can we have a picture of them? Now one of the wives split on us, which was just brilliant. So we had this like a military operation, and we did a different edit for every single meeting. So either the most shameless piece of emotional manipulation in corporate history, but people cried. I mean, that's your little girl in there. People were in bits at the meeting, and then as they were sort of grabbing for the tissue, yes, you do it. So we got permission, so that was all very good. And this is the ad that first made it out. And we got that image. I mean, the first time I saw that, her name's Linda de Maria. She was asked at the casting, what do you like about your body? She said, I quite like this bit here, I just don't get to see it. So we thought, she's our girl, she's got a bit of character. We literally had that photograph like the day before we were due to print and go to press. And so we were writing headlines in a room together. So it came together so at the last minute. Thankfully, we got something that brought the strategy to life. Very wee girls, very eye level, all those things, and beautifully uncomplicated. All those values that we wanted came out in these ads. And then we also leveraged the debate we'd had when the campaign first ran and thought it'd be really interesting to get people to vote. So let's have a debate about beauty. So the campaign came out with these ads, which you probably have seen. Is she fat? Is she fit? And then we asked people to text votes and create a conversation, and the Campaign for Real Beauty as the strap line. This lovely lady, Irene Sinclair, was 96 when she made that ad. I mean, this is the American poster, complete rip of what we did in Europe, but we wanted local talent because they did quite a lot for us from a PR point of view. And we couldn't have got better than this, really, at the time.
Oprah, you got a feed Oprah's mic to the studio. Let's give me a count.
They're causing a stir. 6 real women in their underwear. What's the buzz?
Here's that provocative ad that triggered all the buzz. Here's that ad. Please welcome the Dove Girl, Chanel, Julie, Lindsay, Citrus.
So if you're trying to do anything really great and difficult, don't be frightened if it feels awkward and you get things wrong and it's messy, because I think anything I've done that has been really effortless and sensible has been pretty mediocre, to be honest. But these were the sales results. And then everybody sort of fell into line. These were versus the launch target. It was 700% ahead of the target that was set. And it's actually one of the most successful, most awarded campaigns ever. And it's still running actually more than 19 years on. I need to update this last slide, 20 years on. I can